Paul McGuire Grimes, Paul's trip to the movies. Madelaine Freud, it is really great talking to both of you today. So thank you so much for the time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thank
Paul.
you.
Yeah. Now, Madelaine, I want to start with you. I read that the script was like 290 plus pages. And when you got it, was it that long? And did you know going in that you'd be like getting a trilogy's worth of movies?
Well, I certainly hoped they were going to break it up somehow, but I was sent one file and told, like, this will be broken up into chapters. We're not sure where yet. And so I read it with that in mind and sat down with Courtney and Rennie and came with, like, my whole notebook of notes of what I think this character looks like and who she is. And we kind of, on set and during editing, we figured out where the movies ended and started, approximately before we started shooting, which was very helpful. But it all takes place over 5 or 6 days, so it was easy to stay in that mindset for all three.
And Mads was like so integral to the character and to like the project as a whole, like all three of them, that she ended up going from just an actor to an executive producer on the project as well. Just because like her like feedback was like that valuable and like she had that much to contribute truly every single day that we were shooting. It was really cool.
I love hearing that. What a good compliment. I love that for me.
That's so sweet.
It's true. She's awesome.
That's
She killed
great.
it.
I love, I'm going to touch on that in a bit, but Froy, I want to go next to you. Does acting in a horror movie challenge you differently than maybe some other movies that you've worked on? Because it seems like be a really hard work to actually do.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of hard work in the sense that your body, I mean, we were both talking about this. Your body doesn't really know what's actually real or fake. So the adrenaline is still adrenaline. So I would get back to my hotel room and I'd still be buzzing. I wouldn't be able to go to sleep. But in particular, like, I think it's so fun to have like a horror film or like a genre film like this one, especially as an actor, because like what I kind of was focusing on was kind of playing against it in a way. I was trying to lean into what is good about his life, what is like peaceful and loving and worth surviving for, and that was always Maya, right? So that was like what grounded me in it was like I need to make sure she gets out alive no matter what. And as long as that motivation was there, as long as that drive was there, you could not tell Ryan he's in a horror movie. That man is in an action movie. He's in a romance. Like, he is not in a horror film.
Right. I think sometimes playing just the grounded truth of what it is, regardless of genre, then makes the genre, whether it's comedy or horror, come out in the reality of that situation.
Yeah. As an actor, like, playing the genre doesn't really add much, usually.
Right. Yeah. Now, Madelaine, like we were talking about, you are a producer on this. What made you want to get into producing behind the scenes, and what did you learn about yourself along the way?
I've produced a very small handful of things prior to this project. I think like being on a behemoth like Riverdale really taught, especially, I mean, all three of us girls have production companies coming off of that show, and I think we all were given such autonomy in our characters in that experience that we learned kind of what and how that job operates and all got the itch for it, being on set and, being in a network television show. So, coming into this, I didn't want to be a producer. I was like, I just think I know what this character is and how we can amplify the story even more. And I just came with notes that, I mean, I was willing to have them fall on ears that didn't want them or ears that wanted them, and they did. And I feel so grateful to have been so heavily involved in the post-production of this film, not only just the writing and the production of it, to a degree that I've never gotten to be before. So I'm still learning. This is like my first time really being fully invested in a studio film like this as a producer, but it's such an amazing boot camp.
I was a Riverdale fan through and through. I watched to the very end. So
Wow.
Girl Blossom and Tony Topaz like actually together was really great. So thank you for that too. It was lovely.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, no, of course. Nev Campbell and Jamie Lee Curtis have often talked about how they're these big scream queens, and yet they hate scary movies and refuse to watch them. Do you both love scary movies, and what's your favorite scary movie?
We have different takes on this. I'm not a horror movie guy personally, really. I'm getting into it lately, especially like I played Outlast, which is like a horror video game that I really loved. But she's like a horror aficionado.
I watched every horror movie in my local Blockbuster. Yes, I'm dating myself, when I was like 15 years old. So I'm a big horror person. A lot of my career has leaned towards drama, thriller, horror. And then I did this, and now I'm like, wow, I've really done this. I've really done this genre. I need to like do other things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I worked at a video store like at the age of 15 through like 20, so I completely get that.
Yeah.
I got the Thank you both for the time today. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. I can't wait
Thank
to
you
have
so
it in
much.
chapters 2 and 3 especially. So thank you.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
You have a good one.
Paul McGuire Grimes, Paul's trip to the movies. Courtney, it is really great talking to you today. So thanks for being part of the Strangers. I appreciate the time today.
Not at all. Nice to meet you, Paul.
Thank you. Now,
Now,
I
wait, look at like are those all DVDs behind you and
yes,
Blu-rays?
they're all real movies. And here's
And is
the
that your
first.
personal collection? I don't mean to interview you, but is that your personal collection? He
Yes,
gets
it
an
is.
extra
Yeah,
minute for this.
yes, it is. Here, we'll just put this
I
like
see the
over.
strangers right there. That's awesome. I just want
Yeah.
to say that is awesome.
Thank you. I love
Yeah.
physical media and like popping something in and like just having it at your disposal. I think is so important these days.
I'm with you.
Yes. Now, I want to know about the development of this because I read that the script was 278 pages. Was it always conceived to be like a new trilogy?
So here's what happens. I'll tell you. Okay, it's 289 actually was the original one, and I don't even know where it ended up with all the rewrites. It might even be longer. But, you know, when the opportunity came to do a Strangers project, which came from somebody I work with who got the rights but doesn't physically make the movies, he's a financial producer. I sort of looked at it and I was like, I don't really want to do a sequel like Pray at Night where it's just another stranger's story and they, go after a family or a couple or whatever they do. I definitely don't want to remake the original because it was so good. I just want to like leave it in film verse where it belongs because I as well must have seen that movie 21 times before this ever happened. So as a fan, purely. Okay. So, and then I was like, but I'll tell you what, the original was true terror to me, was true horror that can touch any of us at any time. We have all the millions of horror. We all love them. They're fun and whatever. But that one really struck a chord in a lot of people for that reason, in my opinion. And that was mine. I was really fascinated by who is behind those masks. What makes those people tick, right? Because we learned so little about them. And yet, I wanted to stay like suggesting, giving a little bit, but not just like, coming up with some lame-o, like this is where they came from. That was not it at all. Totally staying in what it was. And at the same time, I was sort of like, I'd love to know what happens if, a character survives that initial onslaught that they do, but is stuck somewhere where they can't get away. And then these people sort of go, let's continue to play with this person, right? And then to go literally beat by beat in a character-driven way with how that would really change that person and affect them if they had to live through it for 3 or 4 days of that type of intense, real terror. It just didn't end, right? And how would they change? And so that's how we approached it. So we started to write that. And, I looked at the original setup because the home invasion was really where it needed to start. And they did it so well in the DNA of the original film. I was like, why are we even going to try to change that? Because there's a whole new audience of fans that have never seen the original film either. So the OG people will forgive us for, and probably, I hope, say to us, okay, good, you started in the right place because you're telling an alternate stranger's story. The DNA of the setup, literally, as the launch pad into this greater story is exactly the way to launch this because we can improve upon that. So we just sort of used the DNA and said, okay, yes, this has to happen, this has to happen. And one thing I did want to do as we were constructing it with the writers was, say, at least we should give a theory on who Tamra was. By the end of this whole thing, people can disagree with it, agree with it, whatever it is, but we're going to give something that like floats out there and says, this is why knock, knock, knock is Tamra home. What we are also going to do is by the end of these chapters, leave you also with questions just like you had way back in 2008. So it ain't all going to be wound up into some perfect bow or anything like that, because then it wouldn't be The Strangers, And so to answer your question, we went, did it, and became a 289-page script. And so we said, screw it, that's what we're going to make, because that's the story we want to tell. That's what Rennie got on board for, Madelaine got on board for everybody got on board for. And then we were like, yeah, of course it's going to have to divide it into chapters because it's just too damn long. But like, that's the story. And I think when you go through this entire thing, like the second movie is even more intense than the first. Like, and if you even think like, it's like in a good way, in a good way.
I'm excited to see where this goes, like for chapters 2 and 3, to see what new angles you have. Like that's fascinating to me. I'm getting the wrap quickly. What was the very first scary movie you ever saw that made you love scary movies?
The Exorcist.
I mean, how do you top that? Of course, that's so perfect.
Yeah.
I got the wrap. Courtney, thank you so much for the time tonight. I hope people enjoy this new trilogy. Thank you.
Thank you so much.